I thought you were just my gym buddy, but that hug from behind broke my walls. I was halfway through my last set of shoulder presses when it happened, when his arms wrapped around me from behind, pulling me into a heat I hadn't prepared for. You'd think after 100 gym sessions together, a simple hug wouldn't shake a man. But it did. It rattled me to my bones. And the scariest part? I didn't want him to let go. I met Isaiah at Iron Fit on a rainy Monday in March, the kind of day where your bones feel soaked before you even leave your car. He was the guy doing squats like his legs were made of steel springs, sweat trailing down the ridges of his back, headphones in, world out. I wasn't looking for anything. Not a friend. Not a distraction. Definitely not a 6'2" ex-linebacker with a jaw like a Marvel superhero and a smile he only showed when he didn't think anyone was watching. But he noticed me first. "You're loading that bar wrong," he'd said flatly, pulling out one earbud as I tried to balance two uneven plates on the bench press. I looked up, defensive. "I'm fine." "No, you're gonna tear your left rotator cuff in 3-2. The bar shifted just enough to scare me. He caught it like it weighed nothing. Saved my ego and probably my shoulder. From that day on, Isaiah became part of my routine. He didn't ask, didn't force it. Just started showing up near my stations. Commented on my form. Shared his towel when I forgot mine. Taught me how to deadlift properly. Called me bro and nudged my shoulder when I beat my own reps. He wasn't flirting. I told myself that. I wasn't either. At least, not in ways that mattered. I've always been the guy people called straight enough. Dated girls. Hooked up with some. Never questioned it, because that would mean opening a door that had always felt bolted shut. Growing up in small-town Georgia, curiosity came with bruises. Secrets were safer. Then I moved to Chicago. The city was louder, faster, freer, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need to explore, I told myself. Didn't need to find a label. I was too busy surviving. Until Isaiah. 3 months into our gym bro relationship, he started texting me post-workout. Protein shake or wings? Legs tomorrow. No excuses. You good, man? You looked off today. His concern felt real. His presence felt easy. But what got me wasn't the messages. It was the silences, the way I'd wait for them, reread them, replay his voice in my head when I was lying alone at night. Wondering what his hugs would feel like. Wondering why the hell I was wondering at all. Then came Friday. The gym was half empty. The air smelled like rubber mats and iron, music thudding low in the background. Isaiah spotted me at the cable machine, eyes locking in that way that always made my stomach flinch. "Need help?" he asked, already knowing I'd say no. I said yes. He stood behind me, correcting my stance, hands brushing my sides. I told myself it was normal. Brothers helped brothers. It didn't mean anything. But then the hug. I just dropped the weight after a brutal set when I felt his arms slide around me from behind, solid, warm, unhesitant. "You crushed it today, man," he murmured near my ear, voice low, real. And I froze. I felt everything at once, the heat of his chest against my back, the press of his forearms under mine, the softness of breath near my neck. And the ache in my chest, not pain, not panic. Something softer. Something I'd buried so deep it forgot how to surface until that very moment. I started. But I couldn't finish. Couldn't lie anymore. I let out a shaky breath instead, dropped the towel, and turned around slow, unsure, afraid to look in his eyes. But he was already watching me. Like he knew. "Jake," he said gently, "it's okay." 3 words. That's all it took to split me open. I stepped back, heart slamming. "No. It's not. You don't get it. I'm not. I've never." He didn't move. Just nodded, lips pressed in that quiet way of his. Okay. I hated how kind he was being. How safe he felt. How badly I wanted to fall into him and scream and cry and kiss him all at once. Instead, I grabbed my bag. I gotta go. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the city hum through my cracked window, Isaiah's arms still wrapped around me in my memory like a ghost that refused to leave. I hated how much I missed something that barely lasted 5 seconds. Hated that I was afraid of it. But most of all I hated that it had felt more real than anything in my life. The next day, I avoided the gym. The next 2 days, too. On the third, I got a message. Isaiah. I'm still here when you're ready. Just that. No pressure. No guilt. And somehow, that broke me more than anything else. On Sunday, I walked into Iron Fit with shaking hands and a racing heart. He was there, doing pull-ups like nothing happened, shirt drenched, arms gleaming. When he saw me, he hopped down. Met me halfway. Waited. I owe you an explanation, I said quietly. No, you don't, he replied, voice calm. I want to give one anyway. We sat on a bench in the back, where no one could hear. And I told him. About Georgia. About the locker room slurs. About the fear. About how long I'd hidden from myself. I didn't cry. But I think a part of me crumbled anyway. When I finished, he nodded. Took a breath. And said, you don't have to be anything you're not. But you don't have to run anymore either. Silence. Then, carefully, Isaiah reached over, took my hand and didn't let go. I don't know what this is yet, I whispered. Neither do I, he said. But I know I want to find out. And that? That was the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. It's funny how holding someone's hand for the first time can feel more intimate than anything physical. That Sunday, sitting on the bench at the back of Iron Fit, Isaiah's fingers intertwined with mine like they'd always belonged there, no pressure, no force, just a quiet confidence I'd never let myself believe existed in men like me. I remember staring at our hands for what felt like forever. They looked right. That night, we didn't kiss. Didn't hug again. We just trained, side by side, like before, except now, something unspoken had cracked wide open between us. No more pretending. No more hiding in, bro, jokes or casual glances. Still, I was terrified. Over the next few weeks, nothing and everything changed. We kept meeting at the gym. We kept spotting each other. He still rolled his eyes when I forgot leg day, and I still mocked him for drinking the same disgusting banana-flavored protein shakes. But after workouts, we started walking home together. Sometimes we'd grab smoothies. Sometimes we'd talk about music, books, life. One night he told me about his ex, a guy named Marcus who broke his heart 2 years ago by choosing safety over truth. You don't have to talk about anything you're not ready for, he told me. I want to, I said. And I meant it. Isaiah never pushed. He just showed up. Consistently. Honestly. Patiently. But the world doesn't slow down for feelings. One Wednesday, I was heading into the locker room when I saw 2 guys from my building, Ben and Chris, walking past, chuckling. Yo, Jake. Didn't know you worked out with that dude all the time, Ben called. Yeah, Chris added with a smirk. Looks like you're getting really close, huh? They didn't say anything outright. But I felt it. The tone. The mockery. That old panic came crawling back into my spine like ice. I mumbled something and rushed inside. Later, in the mirror, I stared at myself, at the guy who spent years crafting muscles and walls to keep people out, who now felt like a frightened kid all over again. I didn't want to lose Isaiah. But I didn't know how to stand in front of the world and say, yes, this is real. Yes, I care about him. Yes, this matters. That night, I cancelled on Isaiah. Said I wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie. Just not the whole truth. I stared at my phone for hours afterward, wondering if he'd call me out. But he didn't. Instead, he sent a single text. You don't owe anyone an explanation but yourself. That made me cry. Not loudly. Just a slow, quiet unraveling on the edge of my bed. The next few days were weird. I pulled back not completely, but enough that I saw it in his eyes. He never said it outright, but I could tell. He was hurting. And I hated myself for being the one causing it. So I did what I'd always done, I distracted myself. I overtrained. I volunteered for extra shifts at work. I ghosted some friends. But Isaiah didn't disappear. He didn't guilt me. He just stayed steady. Still texting. Still checking in. Still there. I think that was what undid me in the end, the fact that he never made me feel small for being scared. It all came to a head on a cold Friday night in November. The gym was quiet, dim. I hadn't planned to be there. I just needed to feel normal again. To feel strong. So I went late, hoping he wouldn't be there. But of course, he was. He was finishing his set of bench presses when I walked in. Our eyes met across the room. Something caught in my throat. I turned to leave. Jake, he called softly. I stopped, hand on the doorframe. He walked over, towel slung over his shoulder, sweat dripping from his brow, but his expression was calm. I'm not gonna beg you to talk to me, he said. But I need you to hear something. I nodded, silently. He looked at me, really looked. I know what this world can be like. I know the fear. The weight of people watching. Judging. The silence you learn to live in so no one picks you apart. His voice caught, but he kept going. But I also know what it's like to choose love anyway. Even if it's messy. Even if it's terrifying. I'm not asking you to come out. I'm not asking you to change your life overnight. He stepped closer. I'm just asking if you feel what I feel when I look at you. The silence between us was deafening. Then, quietly, I answered. Yes. And for the first time in years, maybe my whole life, I felt the fear loosen its grip. We didn't start dating right away. There were no grand declarations, no Instagram posts, no coming out party. It wasn't about that. It was about truth. We started spending more time outside the gym. Movie nights. Quiet dinners. A day trip to the lake where we barely said 10 words but sat in perfect comfort beside each other. And then, one night it happened. Not the kiss. That came earlier, gentle and unsure and life-changing. No, this was different. This was me, standing on Isaiah's porch, heart pounding, voice shaking, saying, I want to stop hiding. He didn't ask what I meant. He just opened the door. And pulled me in. Coming out wasn't a single moment. It was a series of choices. Some big. Some small. Some terrifying. I told my sister first. Then a close friend. Then my parents, which didn't go well at first, but eventually, after long conversations and longer silences, they began to understand. Not everyone did. Some people faded out. Some sent awkward texts. Some sent none. But others? They surprised me. And most importantly, I didn't lose myself in the process. Because for the first time ever, I was finding myself. And Isaiah was there for all of it, not as a savior, not as a crutch, but as a partner. A man who saw me before I saw myself. One evening, almost a year after that hug from behind that changed everything, I walked into Iron Fit, now our gym not just mine, and saw Isaiah talking to a new guy, helping him correct his form. I felt a pang of jealousy at first. Then I smiled. Because I remembered that was once me, lost, guarded, unsure. And now I was whole. I walked up behind him and, this time, I wrapped my arms around him. He froze for a second, then laughed. "You trying to steal my move?" he teased. "Just claiming what's mine," I said with a grin. He turned, pressed a kiss to my cheek, and the room didn't collapse. Nobody screamed. Nobody whispered. A few people smiled. And I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Some people say love is loud, explosive, all fireworks and adrenaline. But I've come to learn that real love, the kind that stays, is quiet. Like breath. Like gravity. Like the beat of a heart you didn't know was keeping time for two. 6 months after that first real embrace in the gym, Isaiah and I moved in together. Nothing fancy. Just a small 2-bedroom apartment in Wicker Park, with chipped counters and mismatched furniture. But it was ours. It smelled like his cologne and my cinnamon protein oats. It sounded like laughter and late-night playlists and the soft thud of gym bags hitting the floor. There were still challenges. I still hesitated when coworkers asked about my weekend. Still tensed when an old friend made a joke that hit too close. Still fought the old voices in my head that whispered, "You're not man enough, not strong enough, not enough." But every time doubt tried to claim me, Isaiah was there. Not with speeches. With presence. He'd slip his hand into mine under the dinner table. Bump his knee against mine on the train. Lean his head against my shoulder in the park and hum off-key to whatever song played in his earbuds. And with each of those little gestures, he rewrote the story I had been telling myself for 29 years. That I was broken. That I was wrong. That I didn't deserve love. But the truth was simpler and so much kinder. I was just late to finding it. One evening in May, while walking home from the gym, we passed a group of high schoolers skating near the basketball court. One kid, maybe 16, froze when he saw us holding hands. His eyes darted between us. Not with hate. With longing. I recognized that look. I'd worn it for years. We kept walking. But halfway down the block, I stopped. Isaiah turned, brows raised. "You okay?" I glanced back. The kid was still watching us, pretending to tie his shoe. I walked over. "Hey," I said gently. "You skate here often?" He nodded, cautious. "You're good," I added. "Way better than I ever was." A faint smile. "Thanks." I paused. "Just so you know, it gets better. When you're ready." He blinked. And for a second, I thought he might cry. But he just nodded again. When I returned to Isaiah, his hand was already reaching for mine. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. "I did," I replied. "Because someone once did it for me. In a gym. With a hug." He smiled. That beautiful, quiet Isaiah smile that felt like the sun rising in the middle of a Chicago winter. Pride Month arrived, and with it came invitations. Marches. Events. Flags. I was hesitant. "I'm not sure I'm there yet," I confessed one night. Isaiah didn't flinch. "You don't owe anyone visibility, Jake. Just honesty." But that Sunday, I woke up to find a small box on the kitchen counter. Inside was a plain black tank top with a single line stitched across the chest, "Stronger than fear." No logos. No rainbows. Just truth. I wore it to our first Pride together. We didn't make a big show. We just walked. Held hands. Let the music and colors and chaos swirl around us like a storm we didn't need to outrun anymore. And for once, I didn't feel like I was stepping into someone else's story. I felt like I was writing mine. A year after that hug, almost to the day, Isaiah and I returned to Iron Fit together after a short vacation. Nothing looked different. Same sweat. Same clang of plates. Same receptionist with her Bluetooth speaker blasting 2010 R&B. But when we walked in, the same two guys from my building, Ben and Chris, were there, spotting each other near the squat racks. This time, they looked at us. Not mocking. Just curious. I didn't flinch. In fact, when Isaiah offered me his water bottle, I leaned in and pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. The world didn't end. Ben gave a low whistle. Okay, I see you two now. Chris grinned. Took you long enough. They weren't being cruel. Just dumb in the way straight guys are sometimes when they don't know what to do with feelings more complex than touchdown or pass the wings. But I didn't care. I just laughed, shook my head, and went back to training. Because now, I wasn't training to look strong. I was training because I felt strong. That winter, Chicago got hit with a brutal snowstorm. Power outages, ice, streets shut down. We were stuck indoors for 2 days, wrapped in blankets, eating cold cereal, watching old movies on a dying laptop battery. At one point, Isaiah looked up from the couch and asked, "What would you have done if I hadn't hugged you that day?" I smiled. Probably married a woman I didn't love. Moved to the suburbs. Bought a grill I didn't know how to use. And kept wondering why I couldn't sleep through the night. He chuckled. And now? I leaned in, forehead against his. Now I'm where I belong. We didn't rush to call ourselves anything. Boyfriends. Partners. Soulmates. We didn't need the labels to prove what we already knew. But the first time Isaiah introduced me to his mom as the man I love, I nearly dropped my fork. She smiled, hugged me, and whispered, "Took him long enough." We stayed with her for the weekend. Ate peach cobbler. Played dominoes. I learned stories about Isaiah's childhood I'd never heard. And when we left, she pressed a photo into my hand, the two of us standing in her backyard, the sky behind us cracked with sunset. "I want you to remember," she said, "what it looks like to be seen. Years from now, I know there'll be more storms. More fears. More moments when the world presses in too tightly. But I also know this. I've got a man who held me once when I didn't know how to hold myself. And when he did, something shifted not just in my heart, but in my entire being. I stopped surviving. I started living. And all it took was one hug from behind." The end. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.